Welcome to the new season of the Digital Adoption Show by Whatfix. In this episode, we will be talking about how to boost your learning and development programs and deliver exceptional learner experiences. First, let's define what we mean by exceptional learner experiences. Essentially, this means creating training programs that are engaging, interactive, and tailored to the specific needs and goals of the learner. So, how do you achieve this? Here are 5 proven strategies for delivering exceptional learner experiences in your L&D programs shared by the top L&D leaders. Ross Stevenson, who is the head of learning at Trainline and founder of Steal These Thoughts, shared how advancements in technology are shaping the future of learning and development and how it can be leveraged to enhance employee development and productivity. Listen to his expert advice.
I mean, in the L&D space, we've always spoken about we need to get better of tech, we need to be tech-centric. Then we had this kind of global shared event where actually we were all forced to become not tech experts, but very tech savvy in the space of a few days. And that really hit L&D teams. So I think for a modern organization now and a modern strategy, I mean, a lot of people will say it needs to be digital. Digital needs to be at that core. And, I find it hard to disagree with that for sure. I think there is a great place for technology. And if you can use technology in the right way with the right intention, and that's something we'll definitely talk about as we go on today's conversation, then I think that is the real key to success. And I think another element to this is not just tech, but how do we blend the human element of that? Because we kind of lost some of that during the pandemic where, we're all locked away for an amount of time. We come out, we go back in, there's various lockdowns, and we've become very familiar more so than ever with a lot of digital technologies, and especially the L&D space. And that's in your personal life and your professional life, because in our personal lives, a lot of us are using social media. There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Twitter. We're used to that quick, fast reactive, let's pick up some chunks of knowledge and learn. And if you look at the L&D industry, they've really had to adapt and all right, how do we do the same thing as these technologies, which people are using in their own time? So a modern approach for me is really looking to have the right intention of technology, but also focus on the human. And when I say focus on the human, it's looking at how do you still have those relevant human experiences in the form of coaching, in the form of mentoring, and still doing those things we do as humans, because technology is not a silver bullet. It's not going to replace everything we do in terms of having that connection and sharing experiences, and really looking at doing what we've always done for millennia, which is sharing stories, which is what we do in all different ways. So I think the modern approach for me is having that digital as a core, 100%, but then making sure you've got that layer on the outside that's still realizing the human. Because what you don't want to do is to make your people a product. And then basically you are just using them as a product as opposed to having those authentic conversations. And look, there's a number of organizations that are approaching this in loads of different ways. Some have done well, some are not doing so well and learning from that. So yeah, I've been really interested to see, especially it's not post-pandemic really, but during the pandemic, how this has continued to evolve.
David James, the Chief Learning Officer at 360 Learning, shared the common engagement challenges faced by learners and organizations and explore ways to overcome them. From creating personalized learning experiences to leveraging technology, here his quick tip for you.
A lot of platforms try to solve the engagement problem. No one's using it. So what do? Well, we'll make it more entertaining. We'll make it more interactive. We'll make the Netflix of learning because people can't come off Netflix. So Gokul, the whole industry went crazy trying to solve the people won't use it problem. And again, I'd let you in on a little secret, Gokul. It's really easy to solve the engagement problem. You need to give people what they actually need, and they determine that when they actually need it. And all of a sudden, you've got no engagement problem. But if you give people what you think they need at a time it's convenient to you, guess what? It doesn't work, right? So learning and development have gone headlong down this path of edutainment and new and novel delivery mechanisms, whilst the employee has been trying to figure out themselves how to solve the same problems that been solved thousands of times in your organization. L&D should be on the other side.
Nick Shackleton, CEO at Shackleton Consulting and former CLO at Deloitte UK, discusses the challenges that people face in the realm of learning and development. From lack of time to difficulty with technology, we explore the various obstacles that prevent individuals from effectively acquiring new skills and knowledge. Check out what he has to say.
The simplest way to think about learning is that our learning is driven by challenges. And sometimes those challenges can come in the form of a story, but more regularly they come from our work. Anyone who's familiar with 70-20-10 and the Work Center for Creative Leadership knows this. So our learning is really driven by the challenges that we experience. And so if we want people to support their learning, there's really only two things we can do. We can challenge them, or we can look at the challenges that they already have in their jobs and create the resources that support them. This is why we use Google and YouTube in the way that we do. We hit a problem, the washing machine is broken, the Wi-Fi is down, and that challenge drives us to use Google to look up the answer. So really, the simplest thing that we can do is understand the challenges that people have, or create new challenges, and either create resources that help them or experiences which kind of challenge them. And from that simple idea, I developed a human-centered design process, which is all about talking to people, understanding what they care about, what challenges they have, called the 5DI, because that sounds a bit abstract. And if you want to change an entire industry, you have to provide the tools and techniques that people use. And so the 5DI toolkit is free for everybody to use. It's on the website, not promoting myself particularly, but just wanting to change the industry and make more of a difference. So that's the practical advice, which is focus on either creating useful stuff that helps people or challenging experiences that change people. And all of the tools you need to do that systematically in a data-driven way are free.
Dr. Jerry Enstra is the Chief Strategy Officer at Mindspring. He shared that from bite-sized lessons to shorter attention spans, we explore the benefits of microlearning and how it can be used to enhance employee development and productivity.
For a software setup, we would very likely, again, once we've gone through the needs assessment and understood what the need is, we might recommend things like microlearning. Microlearning is wonderful. It's a bit of a buzzword, but I don't even like the word buzzword because that's kind of a buzzword. But the idea of small bite-sized pieces of information delivered just in time when you need them. If you put me through a 2-hour course on a new piece of software, that's probably not my ideal learning experience.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
But if you hand me the software and you allow me to play with it, and I've got prompts that will help me take the next step, or I have a question, or I can search for something. In other words, you're feeding me, and you can, in the 2-hour session, you're going to push information toward me. In the time of me just messing around with it and learning it on my own, I'm going to pull out the information that I need. Mm-hmm. And it's a very strong and powerful learning experience when you're able to pull rather than have things pushed at you. Now, that's not always the case. There are some safety things that people don't think about and they don't care about until somebody gets injured. Those might be things you need to push, though you need to make their compliance things, bloodborne pathogens and high-low training and things like that, where, look, people need to take this every year. They need to be familiar with the processes and procedures, and then, then they can move on. But the higher level functioning things like Believe, for Believe and things where you want somebody to embrace a new set of ideas, you might need to build scenarios. They might need to make decisions, and those decisions have real life consequences. You might need to build a game for them to play. I'm writing an ebook right now on what it takes to actually build a true game. Mm-hmm. And the scenario that I'm using is this company is trying to create financial literacy among everybody at the company. And so in the fictitious story that I'm writing, they've tried they brought everybody together, and that really hasn't stuck. And so we're going to build them a game. And it's like a very complex version of Monopoly. You make decisions today, and they have implications for later on profitability and on market share and on research and development and so on. We're in the middle of building an actual game right now, very similar to what I'm describing for a company out of Europe, because they want their people to understand day-to-day decisions and how they connect to the overall financial goals of the company. So that's how we do that. We build, we build the learning experiences custom to the sought after objective and outcome.
Michelle Perry Slater, who is the Learning and Development Director at Kairos Modern Learning and the author of the L&D Practitioner's Toolkit, the Learning and Development Handbook, she shared,
"It absolutely is never about a one shoe for everybody. In the very beginning of my book, I talk about how learning and development is actually wearing very comfortable shoes. And if you got your comfortable shoes on, to move to a new set of shoes, they're new, they're not worn in yet. It can feel different and uncomfortable, but we need to perhaps go through that uncomfortableness ourselves as a profession, because our learners don't necessarily like that word, but the people who are learning something or need to learn something for their jobs, those individuals deserve our best opportunity. They deserve the best way that suits them to learn. And so if we as professionals have come, like I have come, from a training background, and we're very comfortable in a face-to-face training setting, and then suddenly we're having to deal with digital technologies, that's on us. We shouldn't continue to deal with new problems with old technology. And what I mean by that is, we live in a very different world than we did even 5 years ago, let alone 15 years ago. So we need to look at solving the new issues that we have with new ways of working. And that's what our learners will be expecting. And therefore, we need to change as a profession. We need to ensure that we can provide learning in a way that suits the individuals concerned. And it can be done. It can be done. It's not, personalization of learning is not that difficult anymore.
delivering exceptional learner experiences in your L&D programs requires a focus on the needs and goals of the learner and the use of interactive and personalized learning methods. By following these 5 proven strategies, you can ensure that your training programs are effective and engaging for all learners. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Digital Adoption Show Podcast Season 3. We hope you found the information helpful, and we look forward to having you join us for our next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel. Happy podcasting!